While we've got the opportunity, Joe Bartlett's news, and then we'll come back. And again, Bill Rock knows the telephone number, and we have, two lines open. You got to get through Mike Figliola to get to the mayor. If you've got a question, give us a shout right now. Mr. Mayor, is it true that you are looking to reduce the number of vendors on the streets of New York?
Well, yes and no, like everything else.
Maybe, maybe not.
No, we are. There are places where there are so many vendors you can't get down the sidewalk. And there's an issue here of, on one side, vendors argue that they have a First Amendment right to sell stuff and to display stuff on the sidewalk, and the courts have been pretty sympathetic to that. On the other hand, I'm not so sure why a hot dog covered with mustard, the way I like it, is a First Amendment issue. And also the vendors, there's been, over the years, some people have this idea that you could help returning vets by giving them preference on licenses. The trouble is a lot of the vets didn't ever use them, and other people took them over, and so they're non-vets masquerading as vets. I mean, it's a very complex thing. Everybody wants to be able to get a hot dog when they want it, but they don't want the hot dog guy in the way. And the stores who are paying rent and sales tax and everything else saying, wait a second, if you want us to have a business here and employ people here, you can't have somebody just right outside my door selling stuff without having to pay rent. They get free rent from the city on the sidewalk.
So what do you want to do?
Well, there are places where we've gone to court. We think we actually have a pretty good legal case. Like everything else in the city, you got to go to court, and we think the courts will be sympathetic. And in some parks and narrow places where people come together, be able to enforce the law. One of the problems we have with a lot of these vendors is because of state law, we can't take their fingerprints. So we give them a
ticket. So you have no idea who's who?
Well, that's the argument in court. They say it wasn't me, and you can't prove it. And the judge says, well, show me that you can prove that this guy was the guy. Well, Your Honor, unfortunately, we can't take the guy's fingerprints. And so, it's a catch-22, as they would say. But we are getting there. Look, none of this stuff is easy, John. You and I were talking during the break. You got to be sympathetic to some of the legislators who are trying to write legislation to deal, for example, with something that could be a Second Amendment issue or the issue we were talking about before, financial reform. Schumer is as good a senator as this state has ever had, I think. He works his ass off, if you pardon the expression. I guess I shouldn't say that, but he works very hard. And he's very smart. And he can't get everything done he'd like. You got somebody that's working hard, and they try to do the right things, but there's the courts, there's everything else.
You know what? One of the things that concerns me, and I don't think is terribly fair, is that many of these vendors, if not most of these vendors that have the silver carts that they vend from, drag them behind their cars on places like the BQE, going 20 miles an hour, and these carts are not registered. If I have a trailer, I need a registration on that trailer. These are not.
Yeah, I don't
They have
know.
no lights either.
I will look into that. That's a good point. What I've noticed is a lot of these carts have become trucks. I mean, pretty soon you're going to see an 18-wheeler occupying half the block, selling everything. The carts have gotten bigger. They all have generators, so there's electricity, and they have music, and they have lights, and it's not just, somebody selling a hot dog anymore.
You're absolutely right. Let me ask you this question. I asked the question of the governor yesterday. What's with Bill Perkins attacking the charter schools